SAE International is the premier mobility engineering society. Been around for well over 100 years, since 1905. And what we do is we help professionals in the and students in the mobility engineering sphere, so aerospace, automotive, commercial vehicle, and other industries, to achieve their goals. We do this through putting on events, through professional development, but also a big focus on pre-professional development as well, from elementary school children through to students. And we have one of the largest industry standards programs worldwide for the development of technical resources, standards and recommended practices that the industry and governments rely on. I'm the Senior Director of Standards at SAE International. I manage the Aerospace Standards Programme, which we'll get into more in a little bit. But also I have a new and quite exciting part of the role, where we're looking now to bring together some of the practitioners in some of those industry sectors, so to bring the aerospace community together more with the automotive and commercial vehicle communities, to look at some shared solutions, build on some of the fundamentals, and rather than reinvent the wheel when it comes to standards, to build off advances that other industry sectors have made. So a lot of convening, a lot of collaboration, but it all results in progressing the industry forward, and making transportation safer and more accessible. So standards are absolutely fundamental to the industry. I'll focus more on the aerospace industry, but as you'd expect, as you will have expectations, aerospace is a very highly regulated industry. It has a very high requirement for safety. It's an absolutely safety critical industry and sector, and standards really help to support that. And there are a number of areas where that's the case. We bring people together from all across the industry and all around the world. Of course, it's a very global industry. A plane that might take off in Los Angeles and fly to Tokyo and then fly onto London needs to be able to operate through multiple airspaces. Needs to be maintained on the ground, and so global standards are absolutely fundamental to the industry. We have around 8,000 standards for the aerospace industry. These vary from part standards, from material standards, looking at the system level standards, and then equipment, and then for other critical safety engineering areas like human factors, like the safety assessment process, and as well as some new technologies coming in, like the use of AI in aviation, electrification, electrified propulsion, and hydrogen. And again, we can go into that more. But the relationship between standards and regulations is absolutely fundamental. It's a great example of a public-private partnership, because the government again is tasked with ensuring a safe aviation system at the top level at ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, and across through the different national states who are responsible for that regulation, country by country. The regulators are increasingly, through something called performance-based regulation, they are writing more performance-based, higher-level regulatory expectations that industry need to meet the certification requirements. But then that provides the opportunity for industry to use more standards that are referenced by the regulations, giving industry, again, working in partnership with the regulators, more influence over the technical standards by which they comply with the certification regulations. So that's a really critical part. But then the other part is making the making the system work, and part of that is through supply chains. So another critical area of standards is where industry will get together, the OEMs, the tier ones, and then some suppliers down the supply chain will get together to come around some common values in the performance expectations and testing and so on of their products, which enable this quite amazing global supply chain to work for the aviation system. So as we look at where some of the most exciting developments are coming in standardization and in the aerospace sector, there are two main threats that we see. One is in digital transformation, and the other is providing for more sustainable products and technologies, and standards really underpin that, because what we can do again is to get the industry together, get the industry together with customers, with regulators, with procurement agencies, to establish those standards that will enable the development and integration of these products and technologies on the kind of scale that's needed. One small testing program is fantastic, but ultimately what we need in the coming years is a really widespread adoption of sustainable technologies across the aerospace industry. So, and again, as people will be familiar with, there are a number of different approaches in how the aerospace industry is developing around sustainable products and technologies. Some of that is in the lightweighting of the aircraft, and increased use of things like composite materials that'll be supported in the future by the use of additively manufactured products, which can be designed to some interesting and weight-saving geometries. You've then got the propulsion system, which is absolutely fundamental. Some of it is in making these large gains that the engine manufacturers are working on, making increasingly efficient engines and developing different standards to support those. And then there are the more fundamental changes in the use of electrification and alternative fuels. So some of these activities would be, for example, developing an interoperable charging system. So there's standards activities at the moment on our A7D committee on some charging interface standards. There's a committee meeting next week in Germany near Munich, hosted by Lilium and Denso, on electrified propulsion, where they're looking at the certification considerations, the safety considerations for developing and integrating electrical powertrains in fully electric and hybrid electric architectures. And then through alternative fuels, obviously there have been a lot of great trials with sustainable aviation fuel, biofuels, and so on, and there's work to help understand the effects of that fuel on existing fuel systems on the aircraft. Look at how the handling's being done, and then moving on also to look at the same for hydrogen. And we've actually had a committee A7F, which has been actually going since the early 2000s in collaboration with Eurocay's WG80 on hydrogen and fuel cells. They've already put out 3 documents and are now working on some for both liquid and gaseous storage of hydrogen. So standards is really where technology is matured through the consensus development of those practices, providing that kind of baseline for innovation upon which the supply chains can be created, and then the safety regulation can be managed. That's a good question. I think in terms of the most used standards, there are a few which are pretty much the de facto standard for almost every organisation out there. One is the AS 9100 standards. Seem to be IA 9100, which is developed in collaboration with the IQG, the International Aerospace Quality Group, and so that defines along with its counterparts, AS 9110 for maintenance and 9120 for distribution. 9100 provides the quality management system expectations for the aerospace industry for manufacturing and production, and anybody who touches any part of aerospace, again, production, maintenance, distribution, will be using these standards put together over the last about 20 years, and they've been phenomenally successful in bringing together the whole world around some common quality requirements, along with a very rigorous certification system. So that's been a real success story. You've also got some of the products of the S18 committee, which works together with Eurocay WG63 on design assurance and safety assessment process. So documents like ARP 4754 and 4761 are absolutely critical for developing the safety aspects of design assurance, supporting the system safety process, and actually these documents are going to be will be revised. There's been a lot of work over the last few years on their revisions, and they should be released next month. So there's a huge amount of excitement about those documents. Again, globally accepted and absolutely fundamental to the safety process. So I think those between those documents, they're some of the most used and the most recognised standards across the aerospace industry. All 8,000 and so on. They're all like our children. I couldn't possibly pick one or two. I will just mention some as an example, though. Related to the ARP 4754 and 4761, there was one that AIR, Aerospace Information Report 7209, that came along, and that was a really exciting development, because it took the essential principles of the safety assessment process and put those in a distinct document, which will help with the use, with the more scalable use of the S18 products among smaller, less complex, newer aircraft such as eVTOLs and other advanced air mobility documents. So that's been a really exciting one.